Welcome to this class. I'm Krista, a Notion ambassador, and today we're putting Notion AI to the ultimate test. We're going to build a fully functional, interactive Anki-style flashcard system. I will do this manually first, and I encourage you to do this with me so that you could sharpen your Notion skills. And after that, I will try to rebuild this same system with Notion AI agent. Well, this is going to be kind of a battle here. Notion Agent is included into Notion paid subscriptions, and probably you hesitate about buying one. And this class is a good showcase of what Notion Agent can do for you. Now let's make a short observation of the system that we're going to get in the end, and then we can start building. This system is quite simple, but despite of this, it is very powerful in helping you to learn new words. It only has what it actually needs. It has a special view for adding new words. I use English and Polish words as an example in my system. Then there is a tab for learning the words. So I can see the word door. I recall its Polish version. Then I check myself with showing answer button, and I mark this word as answered correctly or answered incorrectly. Every day this review tab has new set of word cards to learn. If I failed to answer for some flashcards, I can review those hard words on a special section here, review failed. I also can archive a word that I no longer want to see in my daily review card set. But I still can occasionally review those archived words to make sure that I still remember them, and I can easily return them to the main cards deck by clicking on the incorrect answer mark. And this last tab is here just for building and updating purpose. There is also a link to a special document with all the prompts and formulas that you may need while building this system. You can find a link to this document in the resources section. And we will not only build this system, but I will also show you how to use it with Notion Agent. Okay, no more delays, let's start building. We'll start from building the main database for our flashcard Notion system. Okay, let's open blocks menu by typing / then search for database inline and choose this option. Okay, let's name it Flashcards. I also suggest to make the page wide by opening this top right menu and turning on this full width toggle. And now we will add the initial pack of properties for this foreign vocabulary learning system. I will use Polish and English as example. Of course, you do your language of choice. So I'm going to add columns for English and Polish versions of my words. Type in the name and choosing the text type for this property and doing the same for the Polish. Note that I don't use this name property for storing either English or Polish version of my words, and mostly for the words, this column is going to be empty because we are going to set up flashcards galleries, and this property is very special. You cannot hide it as you can do this with other properties. And this is quite crucial limitation just because we are going to need the possibility to hide either English or Polish version of our words. So I suggest you just not to use this special title property and add new text properties for both original and translated version for your words. Now let's add the date columns. We will need 3 of them. One for storing the date of adding the word, another one to store the date of last practice, and one more for storing the date for the next practice session. Clicking on Add Property button and searching for Created Time property. This property will be automatically populated for every word that we add to our system. And let's rename it to Edit. Now adding another date property for last practiced date. Here we choose this type date and the last one for storing the next practice session date. Also the date property. Okay. So this is the very basic set of properties and we're going to extend this system in the next lessons. But for now, that's it for this lesson and I will wrap up it by adding several words to have something in my database. I can do this manually, like home is dom in Polish, or I can just ask my AI assistant to add some words. Add words to this database. Let's say 10 words to this database describing home. And it's interesting what it's going to add here. Okay, my AI assistant doesn't have any guidelines about adding new words into this database. That's why it actually added the name. I don't need it, so I actually want to clear this and only leave English and Polish versions for those words. And what I also want to do, I want to change the format for the date properties, and I want to only see the date. I'm used to this day, month, year, and I don't want to see the time. And I will do this for all the other date columns. Okay, we're done. Let's go to the next lesson. In this lesson, we're going to add simplified behavior for our answers buttons. And in the next lesson, we will add the complexity related to spaced repetition logic. So let's start by adding a new property, answers. This is going to be a text property and it will store all the answers for every word in our flashcards system. And now let's add a button for marking our word as correctly answered. Correct. And click Edit Automation. And here I would rename this to mark or to this green option. Let's have it green. And what this button is going to do? Let's edit a new action. First of all, it will add the answer to the answers log. So this one, answers, should be changed. And to change it in the way we need it, we have to edit it as formula. If the answer is correct, I want a green circle to be added to the answers log. So what we are going to do here, we're going to take the answers log that we already have, choose this page, then type dot, and then choose answers from the list, and type plus green circle. And remember to have these quotes around the circle. Okay, let's check how this button works for now. I will save it and then click on it. Okay, one more time. Okay, you can see the answers log is updated every time I click on this button. Okay, now I want to adjust the behavior for this button to also update last practice and next practice dates. Click on the column name, then Edit Automation, and we have to add new actions. First one to update the last practice date, and it should be set for the date when we triggered this button. And one more action for updating the next practice date, And here we will have a custom formula. For this lesson, this formula is going to be quite easy, and we will add the complex logic for spaced repetition in the next lesson. But for now, we can just type today with parentheses and type dot, date add, open parentheses, type 1, comma, and days in quotes, in double quotes, and close the parentheses. Okay, let's save it. Now let's check what is going on after we click on this button. Nice, we not only have the answers log updated, but we also have the dates set. And let's add the similar button for failing answers. We can duplicate this one and adjust it. Let's rename it to incorrect. Let's go to edit automation, and here I will change the name for this red sign. I will update the formula to add the red sign to the answers log, and I will leave all the other actions without any change. Let's save it and test it. Okay, it works quite well. Okay, we're done with this lesson, and in the next one we're going to add complexity to the button's behavior related to the spaced repetition logic. Hi again, in this lesson we're going to make our system much more powerful because we will add the logic to the button's behavior that will let us to set smartly the next practice date. But before we dive into this building process, I want to explain you a little bit what is the logic that we're going to implement for our buttons. I want my system to have these intervals: 1 day, then 3 days, 7 and 30. It means that if I have one correct answer, the next practice session will be set for tomorrow. If I have 2 correct answers in a row, the next practice session will be set in 3 days for this word, and so on. 7 for the third correct answers in a row, and 30 for 4 or more correct answers in a row. I have all the answers saved to my answers log, which is this answers column. And it doesn't matter for me if I have only correct answers in it or something like this. I want only the last correct answers streak to be taken into account in order to calculate the next practice date. So in fact, if I mark my flashcard as answered incorrectly and this red sign appears in the answers log, then the whole schedule for spaced repetition is reset and the intervals for this word will start from 1. So now let's update the buttons to implement this logic. Click on the button name, then edit automation, and we're interested in changing this last action, next practice formula. Formula mastery is not the central topic of this short class, so I will provide you with a ready-to-use formula. You can copy it from the screen or from the document that I have attached for this class for your convenience. You can find it in the resources section. So I'm selecting all the content and replace it with my new complex formula that implements spaced repetition logic. And you can see that here is the intervals line where you can update the intervals to your preference. You can remove some of them or add new ones if you want. The only thing to remember is that you have to separate them with commas. Another thing to mention, if you have a problem with this answers log link, it may happen. Just put your pointer here before the dot and remove everything till the comma. Then add in space and search the link to this page in the list here beneath the formula. This page, and you can see that my pointer is lost actually. I have to return it here. Type dot and search for answers log column here. And now it's done. Hopefully you will have it inserted correctly in the first place if you have this column named the same way that I have. Okay, and now we have to update the second column with this same logic. So, edit automation and the last action, next practice, selecting all the content and replace it with the new content. And now let's test how it works. Let's say I want to practice this new word door, which is pronounced as drzwi in Polish, and I mark it as correct. I practiced it successfully, and I see the last practice date, which is today, 25th of May, and I want my next practice date to be set tomorrow, because it is the first interval that I have in my schema. And I have a correct answer logged into my answers log. What if I add my next correct answer to this word? I actually expect next practice date to be 3 days after today, which is 25th of May. So I expect that 28th of May will be put as next practice date if I click on the correct answer, which works as expected. And the third answer would bring us to the third interval, which is 7 days from the practicing date. And the last one is 30. And actually, no matter how many answers I add, the last interval is always going to be 30. What I just did was meant for testing only. Soon we will configure other views, and once you click on the answer button, the card will disappear, so that you couldn't add those additional correct answers and break this intervals logic. I will give you a hint that you actually can go further and update this formula, probably with the help of this AI assistant, so that it wouldn't update the next practice date if you click on your buttons on the same date that have already been saved to your last practiced column. And now let's see how incorrect button works. I expect that once I click on this incorrect answer button, my spaced repetition schema should be launched from scratch. And yep, it works. Once I add an incorrect answer, my next practice date for this word is assigned for tomorrow. And I think we're halfway there. In the next lesson, we will add a possibility to hide and show the translation of the word on the card. And after it, we're going to set up our views, our galleries, to see our words, word records as cards. Okay, next lesson. And here we will add a set of properties for supporting possibility to show and to hide the correct answer. I'm going to set up the system so that I could see the English version of a word, then recall its Polish translation, and then I want to see the correct answer in order to check myself. I will not do the Polish to English version of this system, but if you would like to see an additional lesson with me showing how to do this reverse learning system, leave a review for this class mentioning that you need this bonus lesson. If I see the demand, I will record it for you. And we're getting back to our system. So let's add a checkbox column named Show Answer. One more column named Answer of the formula type. And here we will have to put a simple formula which tells Notion that if Show Answer checkbox is checked, we want to show the answer. In my case, it's the Polish translation. If not, we want this formula to show nothing. If it was hard for you to repeat what I just did, then just use the document that I have attached to this class in order to copy-paste this formula. And let's check how it works. So if I tick the Show Answer checkbox, then I see the Polish version of my word. And now we actually have everything to set up our gallery or cards view for reviewing the words that we have already learned. To do this, let's add a new gallery view. Let's name it Review. And let's go to the settings. So first of all, let's remove the card preview. Nothing should be shown here. We can see this new page title. I don't actually like it, and I will show you how to get rid of this later. But for now, let's choose which properties we want to see visible on the cards. Click on Property Visibility and make visible Answer, the version of the word that you want to see. It's English for me. Then this checkbox for showing the answer and the buttons. Let's get back to the layout settings and choose this compact card layout. Here, tick this Show Answer button so that we have all the buttons separated from the Show Answer checkbox and from the words themselves. Notion sets this new page title for the records that have empty titles. To get rid of them, let's add a space as a title for this first word and then copy this value for all the others. And also, let's add a new template for this database so that every new word would have this space as the title, and we didn't have to do this manually. And let's make this template to be the default one for all the views. So now if I add a new record here, it already has this space as its name. Let it be a ceiling. And now we get rid of these new page titles. And if you want, you can get rid of those icons for new pages just by turning off this Show Page Icon toggle. We can do this same thing here. And I would rename this view to Debug, because here we see all the columns and it's easy to test and to add some updates. I would also change the icons. Let this one be related to education and debug to something like tooling, maybe like this one. Okay, let's get back to the review gallery. You can see that for the cards where we have the answer shown, the answer is added to the same line that we have an English version of the word. And we have to go again to these gallery settings and to turn on this toggle for the answer and for English as well. We also can update the style of this answer. Go here to your translation column link, then type dot, then style, and in the parentheses and double quotes, type B for bold, then comma, and the color of your preference. And one more thing that we can change here, like you can see that if we show the answer, the English version is shifted down. I don't like it, and to fix it, instead of empty quotes, you can type /n, which is the new line symbol. And now, if we don't see the answer, we actually have this empty new line symbol here. We can see it, but it keeps the layout. And the last thing that I suggest you to do here is to filter all the cards by the date for the next practice. I want to only see the cards that are supposed to be practiced either today or in the past. So the next practice date is supposed to be on or before today. You can see that nothing left here, so let's just go to this debug section and update next practice date for some records. Let's return to the review section, and now we see all the cards with the today practice date. Let's try to add yesterday practice date. Apartments. Mieszkanie. It's here. So we see all the cards with the next practice date assigned for today or in the past. And also, I would suggest you to sort all the words by this practice date. And I would love to see so I choose this descending sorting. Thus, I will see this apartment card in the very end. You can do the opposite if you want to practice the least fresh words first. The last thing that I suggest you to do in this lesson is adding a button that will clean all the answers for all the cards. We will need it because imagine the situation. You take a card, you check yourself with this answer, then you click the button and this card disappeared. And next time you will see it here, you will see it with the answer, unless you tick on this checkbox before giving the answer. So if you open your system, if you open this review gallery and see that there are some answers shown, you could click the button that will erase all the answers and hide all of them by one click. As this button should change lots of records, it shouldn't be a part of the database. It should be outside of database. So we'll add this here above the database. Again, let's call this blocks menu and type button. Let's name it clear the answers. Let's change an icon and add new action. We have to edit pages in the Flashcards database. And we don't want to edit all of them. We only want to edit those that have this show answer checked. And we want this checkbox to become unchecked. So let's see how it works. Okay, so it did updated 3 pages. 2 that we could see here and the one that disappeared after I gave an answer, the door. Okay, we're done with this lesson. In the next one, we will add another view for adding new words. Hello again. In this lesson, I'm going to add a new view which will let us conveniently add and learn new words and see them separately from the one that we have already started to learn. So, add a new view, and this time I want it to be a table view. Let's name it New Words and change the icon to your preference. Let's disable the icons, and I also like to turn off those vertical lines. Okay, now let's go to property visibility, and I suggest you to only leave your English, Polish translation and maybe edit, and only the correct button. Probably I don't need this edit column, but I want to sort these words by this column. And I want to see the most fresh ones on the top. And so that only new words appear here in this view, we have to add the filter. Let's filter all the records by last practice. If last practice is empty, then this word is supposed to be new. And that's actually it. We can move this new words view to the very left position. Let's hide the database title, by the way, and add the divider between the button and the database. Let's hide this filtering and sorting settings. And it is supposed that I see my new word, I see its English version, and I try to memorize my Polish version of this word. And once I memorized it, I click the button and this word is marked as correctly answered, which means it has the next practice date assigned to it for tomorrow, and this word disappeared from this view. So tomorrow I will see this word in my review section. And if I want to add a new word, I can do it right here. The newly added words will go to the very top because I used this descending order for this sorting rule. You can do the opposite and use this ascending sorting order. Okay, we're done with this part, and in the next lesson we will add possibility to archive the words that we have already learned. Next lesson, and we're very close to the finish here. In this lesson we're going to add possibility to archive the words that you have already learned and no longer want to see them in your review gallery. So let's go to the debug view, which is quite useful for adding new properties, and add another checkbox. Archived checkbox. Okay, and let's add a button that will help us to move a word to the archived section. And this button should change the archived checkbox and set it to checked. And also let's rename it the same way we did it for other buttons and put the emoji of a trash bin here. Now let's go to the review section and update the filter so that we didn't see the archived words. So we have to change the existing filter to an advanced one and add a new rule which excludes the archived. So archived should be unchecked. Make sure you have and here, not or, but and. And let's reveal the button for archiving our words. So now you not only can answer with these buttons, but you also can. So now if you see that you're actually quite good with this word and you don't want this to resurface in your review section any longer, you can just archive it. And it disappeared. But probably a good idea would be to review sometimes the words that have been archived. So let's create another view. Let's duplicate it from the existing review gallery and name it Review Archived. Let's change the icon. I will move it to the left and let's update the filter to only show the archived words, and we don't need this next practice date here in the filter, so you can just remove it. And now let's update the sorting rule so that all the cards have been sorted by the last practiced date, and the ones that have been practiced longer ago would resurface to the top. So we need ascending sorting order here. Let's add several cards to the archive section, and let's say you want to review your archived cards. Let's check the sorting, by the way. Let's say we practiced this word almost a month ago, so it became the first one, which is good, which is what I wanted to have. And probably you don't need this archive button here. So let's say you want to review your archived words and you see the word that you can't recall. And I think that it would be pretty cool if you could click on the incorrect button here and this word would be unarchived and added for the review for tomorrow, according to my spaced repetition schema. To do that, let's update the behavior of this incorrect button. So once it is clicked, I want archive checkbox to be unchecked. Saving the changes, and let's test them out. A window. I see the answer and I can't recall it. I want to get this card back to my review system. So I click this, so it disappeared from here, and I expect to see the next practice date tomorrow. Here is my word window. Next practice date is tomorrow, and this card is not archived anymore. By the way, if you want your words to be not that tall, you can unwrap the content here in the answer section, and we can see the cells of their normal height now. Okay, we're done with the archived functionality. This is the wrapping lesson for the part where I manually built the spaced repetition system. We will add an optional view to easily review the words that we failed to answer for the last time, and we're going to the system. So what I want to add here is an optional view for reviewing the words that I failed to answer correctly. I want this view to look very close to what we have here in new words. I want it to be a table. So I will just duplicate this view and rename it to review failed. And I will change the icon for something like that. I don't need to see the buttons here because I don't want to add some answers to my answer log. I just want to review the words to make sure I'm ready to give correct answers tomorrow. And I have to update the filter to show. I will delete the existing one and add a new one over the answers, and I want to see the records which have answers log ending with this fail sign. And what else I want to do here is grouping these words by the last practice date. I will leave this date by in relative mode, and I would prefer to see the newest one on the top. And let's say I practiced this furniture word somewhere on the 1st of May. Then this word will go to another group which brings together all the records for the last 30 days. You can also update this setting to have it not relative groups, but grouped by weeks or days or whatever you want. But for me, relative seems quite simple and nice. And I will move this view to the middle. So this is pretty much it. The system is ready and it looks quite simple. But despite looking this simple, I find this system quite thoughtful and powerful. It has the bare minimum it needs for learning new words. But what we could add here, I will show you the extensions for this system that can be implemented, and if you are interested in having my guidance in building those extensions, let me know about it. Leave a review for this class and add few words about what exactly you would love to see. Once I see the interest in particular functionality, I will record additional lessons, bonus lessons for this same class. First of all, we could add additional views for training our words in the opposite direction, from Polish to English in my case. Another thing that we could add here is the possibility to mark if the word was easy or hard to recall. And if the word was hard for you to recall, another interval would be taken. The previous one, for instance, or the current one would be repeated. One more extension that is quite easy to add here is possibility to type the answer and then check if you typed it correctly. And of course, we could group our words by topics and add some statistics, especially if you have a paid plan with access to Notion charts. Okay, we're done with this part where we built this system manually. And now let's do this experiment with Notion AI and try to build this same system or similar system or maybe better system with Notion AI Assistant.